What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Glad to be back with another video. So here's a long awaited video. A lot of you guys seen it in the background for the past few years and every video I've posted. I've actually been trying to post this video for almost 2 years now because this was one of my own vehicles and I purchased it as a barn find back in 2019. And yes, this was a real barn find. It sat with the rims off up on jack stands since 2009. So this was an actual barn find in a real storage unit that was pretty much collapsing. So as you guys can tell, it's in really rough shape inside and out. The original rims are missing. We did a cool upgrade, as you guys will see later on. Has some hideous stickers all over the truck that aren't original. Deep scratches. Was definitely neglected and abused and was left there to rot and die. Was one of the coolest trucks ever made if you're not familiar. This is the fastest production truck up until the Ford Lightning came out and the Ram SRT10, and was still a strong runner-up. This thing was whooping Ferraris and Corvettes in a quarter mile back in its day, so very cool. Less than 3,000 made and still in, neglected, but still has a lot of the original parts, so was definitely worth saving. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So to start off the detail, I got the truck up on a lift, and here I'm going to be soaking it down in some gunk engine degreaser because there's tons of gunk buildup. As you guys can see, it is a 100,000 mile truck, which isn't very high, but it can be when it's abused miles. So this truck was obviously neglected, very dirty underneath, lots of grease and grime all over the place. So I'm going to soak it down in some gunk engine degreaser. Then I'm going to take some full strength degreaser and just soak every nook and cranny as much as possible and let it dwell for a little bit, then get it all pressure washed away. So to remove any surface rust and brighten up all the aluminum components, I'm going to be using some acid-based wheel cleaner. And as you guys can see, instantly makes a big difference, brightens up everything underneath and looks amazing, almost makes it look like brand new again. So here I'm going to be using pretty much the same process, a full strength degreaser, soaking down every part of the engine bay repeatedly until it comes out completely clean and degreased. I did get a couple of questions as to why I do these engines warm, and I'm going to explain to you why right here. So a lot of times I don't do it when the engine is completely hot, but I do like to do these older engines when they're a little bit warm because where we're at in Washington, it gets really cold, and I've done this in the winter. It was probably between 25 and 30 degrees around this time, and it's really hard to get grease to come off with ice cold water. So a lot of times when you spray some of the degreaser on a warm engine, not a completely hot one because that will cause some problems, but a decently warm engine, it does help it to come out a lot cleaner. Now, is it the safest way? Not really, but it is really effective. So, I mean, anytime you really clean an engine bay, there's always a risk that there's things bad that's going to happen. So, you know, do it at your own risk. I don't really recommend doing it very often, but for cars like this, when they're that ugly under the hood, they need to be done. So, but I mean, you know, whatever way is safest for you, that's the way I get it done, and it comes out amazing. So, moving on to the paint, I'm going to be soaking the paint down with a 5-to-1 degreaser, and there was a lot of bird crap all over the truck. I kind of got washed off from the rain, and then tons of, like, I don't know, moss and like dirt that you really couldn't see in the before shots, but it was pretty dirty, so this is a very necessary step. So I didn't get a chance to clay the paint while I was in the foam because someone was waiting to get in the wash bay, but I went ahead and did it after I washed the truck and dried it. And then moving on to paint polishing, here I'm going to be using some compound and a microfiber cutting disc, and as you guys can see, it did a pretty good job. I did go through a few different pads. I went kind of bounced between the microfiber pad and the Meguiar's thin heavy cut pad. I got a better result with the microfiber, but there was some times where the foam pad was helping out a lot. But as you guys can see, a great before and after with just compound, and we'll go ahead and polish it later on. So as far as I can tell, the truck has definitely been repainted in some spots, not completely, but as you guys can see, a lot of gunk was coming off this pad. I had to blow it out frequently with compressed air, as you can see right here. But yeah, this is a very necessary step when you're doing a lot of these old paints. The pads will get gunked up, I mean, really often. I went through probably about 3 microfibers getting through this paint. It was very soft, and then some areas was very hard, which you can also tell in some spots the texture was a little different, so it was definitely touched up in multiple spots through its life. However, as you guys can see, there's like a really heavy haze after the compound, which I'm not worried about right now. Not aiming for perfection in this step, just going for scratch removal. And we're going to try and get this paint looking as nice as possible. I end up doing a 3-step correction on this, so you guys will see it end up coming out really nicely though. So here I went ahead and wet sanded the top portions of the bed where the old decal sat that they installed. It left an etching on the truck, so even after removed you can still see the letters, which is really common for having decal sit for a long time. So I went ahead and wet sanded it and polished it out and made it pretty much invisible. However, moving on to the lower bed side of the truck, this was the worst portion of the entire truck. It had severe scratches, and as you guys can see, I tried to wet sand them out. I went as deep as 1,000 grit, and you can just tell they was still catching the nail, and it was, I mean, all the way down to the base coat. So I went ahead and wet sanded them and made them as least noticeable as possible without burning through. So we'll take a break from polishing for a minute, and here I'm going to replace the taillights before we move on to the next step. And while they're out, I'm going to go ahead and clean the housings because it was pretty dirty and they had a lot of debris and rocks. So I want to get those blown out and cleaned, and then reinstall the new taillights. So I also went ahead and installed some new fog lights because the old ones were cracked, and it made the truck brighten up a whole lot and just gave it a nice clean look. So before polishing, I'm going to go ahead and touch up some of the chips and scratches and then level it out later with the polisher. So to remove the defects and imperfections left behind from the compound and microfiber pad, I'm going to be using a Meguiar's yellow polish pad along with some Sonax Perfect Finish. So the right side has been compounded, and as you guys can see, a clear difference on the left side, which has been polished and compounded. So very big clarity difference. You guys can see the reflection was amazing. We got this paint probably, I would say, about 98% scratch free, which is pretty good in comparison. The paint was nearly unsavable on this. Some spots was even like rattle canned, they used rattle can black paint for touch up for little tiny scratches that I literally wet sand and polished out. So yeah, very poor condition paint, but it did come out really nice. So next clip, we're going to be talking about the rim situation, and basically we couldn't get the original rims for this truck, no matter how hard we tried. And if we did find some, they were upwards of like $4,000. So we went ahead and did a set of C4 CR1 rims wrapped in some brand new Nitto tires, which I think looked amazing and kind of period correct for the truck, which is a nice upgrade. I mean, originals are cool also, but I think this looked really nice on the truck and they fit really well. So I went ahead and installed some GMC little decals we got from eBay, just to give it a little bit of an extra stock look and not look so aftermarket. But as you guys can see in some later clips, it sat on the truck really nice, and I think it added a really cool look to it. So moving on to interior, we're going to go ahead and pull out the seats and then start with doing a dry extraction. So that is me basically vacuuming it with a tornador. And as you guys can see, it'll blow out a ton of dust out of every fiber in the carpets and loosen up any dirt and debris and sand or kind of pretty much anything you got in there. So if you don't have one of these tools, and if you're a detailer and you have compressed air, I would definitely recommend it. It costs about 130, 140 bucks, and they work amazing. Just kind of wanted to give you guys a close-up view of how much sand and dirt can build up in seats, and when you have a tool like this, how it easily gets it out and makes a big color difference. Like, you guys can just see it rattling right out of the seat right there. So amazing tool. I highly recommend this tool. I've heard a few people trash talk the Tornador dry extractor, vacuum, whatever you want to call it, but this thing works amazing, and I always recommend it to everybody. If you have a good source of compressed air, it does an amazing job, as you guys can see. So before extracting, I'm going to move on to cleaning all the plastics and materials on the door, and I'm going to be using a all-purpose cleaner along with a few brushes, compressed air, and multiple microfiber rags, and get it as clean as possible. So funny backstory with cleaning the center console. In the cup holder, there was actually a disfigured fish oil pill, and once I scrubbed, I quickly found out what it was. I couldn't tell what it was until I started scrubbing on it. It was jammed like in the cup holder, and man, all of my brushes, everything I had to soak in like some bleach just to get the smell out. It smelled horrible in this truck after I cleaned the center console. So moving on to extraction, here I'm going to be using some chemical guys, lightning fast in a chemical sprayer, along with some hot water, and then I'm going to agitate it with a drill brush and get it all extracted. So moving on from the extraction and onto the interior again, we're going to be using some nanoskin gloss it. Now this is an aerosol dressing formulated mostly for interior. Now the detail truck guy highly recommended, so I want to give it a try, and I did like it. I really don't like using a lot of aerosol dressings for interior just because the overspray is so bad and they don't really have as many protectants. But I did try some test spots with like 303 and another dressing that I have that I can't remember the name of, and it didn't do a very good job. It kind of left the plastics looking dry and a little bit discolored, so I want to add as much pop as possible to this interior. Since it has so many different types of materials on it and colors, I really want to make it pop. So I went ahead and opted for this, and it actually done a really good job. As you guys can see, if you wipe it down properly with enough rags, it does come out to more of a satin finish, not very glossy, because I'm not a fan of glossy interior. So but as you guys can see, it really rejuvenated a lot of the plastic and stood this way for quite a while. So as you guys can probably tell, we installed a new tonneau cover, and to treat it and protect it, I'm going to be using some Silk Shine by Chemical Guys. First time trying this stuff. Not a huge fan of it. It does add a pretty nice look, but doesn't last very long in my opinion. So a little backstory on the tonneau cover. It did originally have like a fiberglass shell, but it was in really bad shape and was kind of all cracked and broken. So we decided to go with a roll-up tonneau cover that was pretty cheap on Amazon. It was like 200 bucks and was actually pretty good quality. So to finish off any overspray from the interior gloss and any smudges or any handprints or anything off the paint, we're just going to be using some Chemical Guys banana spray wax and a few microfiber rags just to make sure it's all nice and spotless. So one question I'm going to answer before it's even asked in the comments, and that is, why is the Syclone decal missing? And that is because I had all the cladding repainted on the truck since it was all broken and discolored and was repainted in numerous spots. So that's why it was kind of a different color in a lot, as you guys can see in the old before shots. If you really pay attention, the front bumper was different color, had multiple cracks on like the back end, so we had to repair it and repaint it, and it came out amazing. However, we had to sacrifice the original decal. I did order a new decal from a place called Eckler's online. However, it didn't come in time to finish the video, blah blah blah, so that's why it's missing. But as you guys can see, it made a really big difference on the look of the truck having it repainted. So after the spray wax, I proceeded to wipe the windows with some glass cleaner, and then I went ahead and dressed the tires, and now we're going to be moving on to the final before and after results. Enjoy. Well, that's gonna wrap up our video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel and get your notification bell turned on so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed the content, leave the video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.